works as a social system? How does an Indian village works as the social system? Anyway, we'll give the handout after class. Fine. So to study the Indian village as a social system, so we'll be following again the similar approach which we already know, which is a structural functional approach. So what is this structural functional approach? So what do you mean by this structural functional approach? So it should be a part of that structure and it should have some specific function so that the village system survives in the current social system, or village settings survive in the current social system in such a way. So the Indian village should comprise both the structural component and the relevance of the functional component so that it should be surviving as a specific social system. Now, so what are the various structures? So one is social structure, second one is cultural structure and institutional structure. So what is social structure? Nana, what does village constitute something which can be included under social structure? Organic pattern of? Yes, what relationship? Which levels of the relationship? It starts right from the individual level. Individual, family, kinship. So this is one kind of social structure. The other kind of social structure is your caste-based hierarchy, group-based hierarchy. Caste-based hierarchical system. The next social structure is the gender relations. The male and the female. The gender relations, male and the female. And the other social structure is age-based gradation or hierarchy. Age-based gradation. And so all these are influenced by the modern world's class-based hierarchy. So all these are present in the social structure. So society lo oka village social system lo study cheyadaniki సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్లో ఉన్న భాగంగా ఏమేమి ఉంటాయంటే ఫ్యామిలీ నుంచి, ఇండివిజువల్ నుంచి, ఫ్యామిలీ నుంచి కిన్షిప్ వరకు, అండర్స్టాండ్, క్యాస్ట్ బేస్డ్ హైరార్కీస్, క్లాస్ బేస్డ్ హైరార్కీస్, మేల్ ఫీమేల్, మ్యాన్ ఉమెన్, ఏజ్, చిన్నపిల్లలు, అడల్ట్స్, ఎల్డర్లీ. సో ఆల్ దీస్ ఆర్ ద కాంపనెంట్స్ ఆఫ్ the social structure, which forms one of the element of this structural element of the Indian village social system. Right? And then, so what about this cultural? What about this cultural? So cultural structure includes multiple things like religion, ritual, festivals, then local practices, and the traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge about what? Everything. Like their local art forms, or else architecture, or everything, be it medicines or food. So all these are included under the cultural structure. అర్థమవుతుందా? సో స్ట్రక్చర్ అంటే ఒక సొసైటీ, మనం విలేజ్ అనే ఒక సిస్టమ్ని యాజ్ ఏ సోషల్ సిస్టమ్గా చదవడానికి స్ట్రక్చరల్ ఫంక్షనల్ అప్రోచ్ అనేది తీసుకుంటే, సో స్ట్రక్చరల్లో డిఫరెంట్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయి, విలేజ్లో ఏమున్నాయి, దీనిలో ఇది మన స్ట్రక్చరల్ కాంపనెంట్ అని చెప్పడానికి. సో అలా అనలైజ్ చేసినప్పుడు, సో ఒకటి సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ వచ్చింది. సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ అంటే ద విచ్ ఈజ్ గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ ఇండివిజువల్స్. సో రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ ఇండివిజువల్, ఫ్యామిలీ, కిన్షిప్, ఏజ్ బేస్డ్, రిలీజియన్ బేస్డ్, కాస్ట్ బేస్డ్, క్లాస్ బేస్డ్. సో ఇదంతా సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్. అలాగే కల్చరల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ వచ్చింది. కల్చరల్స్ అంటే ద వే దే లీవ్, రిలీజియన్స్, ఫిలాసఫీస్, కస్టమ్స్, నార్మ్స్, ప్రాక్టీసెస్, ఆర్ ఎల్స్ దేర్ నాలెడ్జ్ అబౌట్ ఫుడ్, their knowledge about medicines, medicinal plants. So all these are the components of your cultural structure. Understand? Then what about this institutional structure? What are the institutions? So institutions are those which are included like your marriage system, marriage rules, or else political system like panchayat, dispute redressal, then economic institutions. Economic institutions ఏముంటాయి విలేజెస్లో? How they produce, collective produce or storage or redistribution or marketing, basic marketing, basic village market నానా. సో అంతే కదా. ఇప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, వాళ్ళు ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ బేసిక్ లెవెల్ ఫార్మర్ ఉన్నారు. సో వాళ్ళన్నీ పండించినవన్నీ ఆ వారం సంతకు తీసుకొస్తారు కదా. డూ యూ హ్యావ్ ద ఐడియా ఆఫ్ సంత? ఏంది మరి, అది విలేజ్ మార్కెట్ కదా. ఫార్మ్స్ ఆఫ్ ద ఎకనామిక్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఆఫ్ ద విలేజ్. సో where it defines the market systems which include production, distribution and the consumption. So it could be anything. So right from your level of your agricultural produce or the pottery or any metallurgy, carpenter, ante kada. So everything that is being sold at one marketplace, which is a representative of your economical institution, which there is an exchange between the production and the consumption. So స్ట్రక్చరల్ కాంపనెంట్లో ఒక విలేజ్ని మనం చదవాలి అంటే, సో మనకు సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఉంటుంది, కల్చరల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఉంటుంది, ఎకనామిక్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఉంటుంది. ఎకనామిక్ స్ట్రక్చర్లో ఏం కాంపనెంట్స్ ఉన్నాయి? ఎకనామీ రిప్రజెంట్. సో ప్రొడక్షన్ అనే ఒక కాంపనెంట్ ఉంది, డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ అనే ఒక కాంపనెంట్ ఉంది, కన్జంప్షన్ అనే ఒక కాంపనెంట్ ఉంది, మార్కెట్ ఎక్స్చేంజ్ అనే ఒక కాంపనెంట్ ఉంది. కల్చరల్ సిస్టంలో ఏం కాంపనెంట్స్ ఉన్నాయి? ఒక రిలీజియస్ బిలీఫ్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఒక ప్రాక్టీసెస్ ఉన్నాయి, రైట్. సో ఆర్ఎస్ యువర్ నాలెడ్జ్ ఉంది, ఫెస్టివల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, సీజనల్ డేటీ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ ఉన్నాయి. సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్లో ఏమున్నాయి? ఇండివిజువల్ నుంచి ఫ్యామిలీ నుంచి హయ్యర్ లెవెల్ వరకు, సెక్స్ బేస్డ్ గ్రేడేషన్స్. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ మల్టిపుల్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్. సో స్ట్రక్చరల్ అంటే వాట్ ఆర్ ద బేసిక్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ ఆఫ్ దట్ సిస్టమ్. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద స్ట్రక్చరల్ అనాలిసిస్ ఆఫ్ ద విలేజ్. సో విలేజ్ని ఒక స్ట్రక్చర్గా చూడాలంటే, సో సోషల్ స్ట్రక్చర్, కల్చరల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ అండ్ దెన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ స్ట్రక్చర్. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ ద స్ట్రక్చరల్ అనాలిసిస్ ఆఫ్ ద విలేజ్, స్ట్రక్చరల్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ ఆఫ్ ద విలేజ్. సో వాట్ అబౌట్ ద ఫంక్షనల్ అనాలిసిస్? దట్ మీన్స్ everything has got that specific function. For example, market exists. What is that function? Redistribution of the resources. Understand? So there is a function about, let's say, the panchayat. So what is the function? It functions as something where the decision will be taken. The decision or else the dispute resolution will be taken. So that is the function. Ardhamautunda? So we will see what are the different functional analysis. So these are all the structure. And then functional. Functional analysis of the village system. In that, so generally this functional analysis are classified into two types, which are direct or indirect. Right? So direct functions and indirect functions, where these are also termed, this is also termed as obvious functions, intended functions. So these are the different functions, whereas indirect functions are unintended, derived functions. So these are the two kinds of functions that every system or every component of each or each component of that village will have that. Ardhamainda? So direct functions, indirect functions. Obvious functions are intended functions. There unintended are derived functions. Right? So obvious functions. So obvious functions, definitely these are, for example, the social institutions or the social structural elements, the social structure, where the obvious function is maintaining social cohesion, increasing of the population, right? Socialization. What is socialization? These are all the social functions. What do you mean by socialization? Not priority, where they get more of interaction. Where they interact more with the people, that is known as socialization. Socializing means where you interact more with the people, where you talk with the poor people. So that is socialization. So these are the functions of your social structure. Social cohesion. What do you mean by cohesion? That is cohesion. Social cohesion, increasing the production or else the population, reproduction, and the socialization. These are all the functions of the social structural element. So social structural element ఏం చదువుకున్నాం? ఫ్యామిలీ, ఇండివిజువల్, ఏజ్ బేస్డ్, కాస్ట్ బేస్డ్, హైరార్కీస్ ఆల్ అని చదువుకున్నాం. వాటికి ఉండే ఫంక్షన్ ఇది. Understand? Then the other functions of your economic institutions are institutional functions. Institutional functions like your basic economy, market system aithe exchange of resources. Exchange of the resources. If it is religious, meeting the spiritual needs. Religious needs, spiritual needs, and also a method of social control. What do you mean by the social control? సో నువ్వు ఒక తప్పు చేస్తే దేవుడు నిన్ను శిక్షిస్తాడు. నువ్వు ఆ తప్పు చేస్తే someone will be watching and you will be punished. So that is the mode of social control. So that is one component of your religion. దేవుడు అనేవాడు ఒకడు ఉన్నాడు రా. So that is the component of your social control. So institutions like religion, institutions like economy. So economy where there is exchange of resources. The function is exchange of the resources, where it links the production and the consumption. Understand? Similarly, your political institutions, where it maintains that social order. What is social order? Chadukunada, what is law and order? Law is chattam, order ఆదేశమా? ఆదేశం కాదు. Execute. Okay. So when do you say that everything is in order? After proper administration. Okay. So where there is nothing abnormal is happening, you call that everything is in order. Understand? So social order is where the people commit to the cause of that society, cause of that group, and they don't deviate from the group. So that is social order. So that social order will be maintained by the panchayats, where they have this dispute redressal by giving punishments, by controlling them, where generally the religion, it acts mainly on the individual moral control, whereas this political system, it acts as an external control. అర్థమైందా? సో రిలీజియన్ యాక్ట్స్ యాజ్ ద ఇన్హరెంట్ కంట్రోల్, లోపల భయాన్ని సృష్టిస్తుంది. అండర్స్టాండ్? ఇన్హరెంట్, ద కంట్రోల్ ఇట్ విల్ బీ ద ఇన్హరెంట్ ఫ్రమ్ ద ఇండివిజువల్ లెవెల్, వేరాస్ ద social control or the control of whole group, which will be external, will be executed by this, the political aspect. So these are the different direct functions of your various institutions that are associated with your village. So direct functions, intended functions and obvious functions. So what is the exact function of each institution? Then what are the latent or or unintended functions? So what are unintended means? What do you mean by unintended? Expect cheyani ani kada, where you are not expecting this, but the unintended function. For example, you are preparing for your GS Indian society, so indirectly you are also preparing for your essay paper. All the social issues are all being covered under your Indian society. So that is unintended, or you are not expecting. It could be both positive or negative. So unintended or derived functions. So like the multiple things. So one is, for example, so it is cultural transmission. So these social institutions, so they act as a vehicles for your, or agents for your cultural transmission from one generation to the next generation. Cultural transmission. Then it is also about your integration of the society. What is this integration of society? Which provides the concept of interdependence, which rules out the disruptions, which rules out whatever, which irons out any differences. So that is one more unintended thing about your the unintended functions of the village social system. And also it gives the, what do you call, judicious usage of the resources. So there is a term called prudency. Enti prudency ante? Prudent ante enti? So what do you mean by prudency? Prudent ante telsa? So prudency is efficiency in utilizing the resources. For example, if you have only 100 rupees, so how better you utilize that 100 rupees is the prudency. Most prudent means where you are giving best utilization of that specific resource. So this prudency of utilization of resources is also one of the unintended or derived functions of the village social system. And also the most important, it also gives the ability to adapt to the changing conditions. Ability to adapt to the changing conditions is again one of the important aspect of your derived functions. Now just imagine the whole concept of this structural analysis and functional analysis with keeping Judge money system in your mind. So if you see structure of Judge money, it has got all this structure. There are one Yajman, one Kamin, multiple Kamins, there is an interrelationship. And functional, so there is again dependence, exchange of resources, where there is concept of self-sufficiency. Ardhamautunda? So in such a way that village social system, every institution will be a part of either structural which serves again a functional aspect. అర్థమవుతుందా? సో దట్ ఈస్ హౌ యూ స్టడీ village as a social system, where you study about its structural components and the application of these structures as multiple functions. Understand? So this is how you approach studying the village as a social system under structural functional perspective, structural functional approach. Right? అర్థమైందా?